Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I talked about how my former friend was in the occult part 2. And in this video, this is going to be the part 3. So here it goes. So in the previous episode, I talked about the Hawks game, which was February 22nd, 2019. Okay, so I want to start off with March 1st, 2019. So it's March 1st, 2019. If you haven't watched An Unlikely Story, around this time, I was having what I thought was acid reflux issues. So I would belch a lot. I would always feel full after drinking a gulp of water. I was having a lot of digestive issues, and also too, I was getting sick as well because of the weather. And just all of that combined, it was just really messing with me. So I remember there was a time at the end of February, I had tried this popular Chipotle-like restaurant and the food was good. But I noticed that hours after, I started feeling funny. And I think there was some ingredient that was in the meal that I think was just messing with me. So I remember texting Ruby and I was just telling her about it. And I'm like, yo, I think I need to throw up. And then she immediately screenshots to me ways to throw up. And I saw one of the ways was that you can just put a spoon in your mouth and you can throw up. So that's what I did, and I threw up. So I threw up. I was like, oh my goodness. I'm so thankful that Ruby sent me that article. And so Ruby was there for me in that situation. Now, I want to get to March 14th. Now, March 14th, that was a Thursday leading up to our spring break. So me and Dina, if you don't know who Dina is, please watch An Unlikely Story. But Dina and I were saying to ourselves that maybe we should go to Candytopia. Candytopia was around in Atlanta at the time. We should go to Candytopia for spring break, and we should invite Ruby and Ruby's best friend in the program. So I'm like, okay, I would reach out to Ruby, and Dina said she would reach out to Ruby's best friend. So it's March 14th. I'm in my apartment. I text Ruby like, hey, can I call you? So I call her. And I said, hey, Ruby, me and Dina, we're planning on going to Candytopia for spring break. I forgot the date that we chose. I think it was probably a Tuesday or whatever. And so I'm telling this to Ruby, and she's saying that she can't come because for spring break, she's traveling to Cali with her friend, which happened to be Tiana. Okay, so she was traveling to Cali for spring break with Tiana. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's dope. So I'm like, yo, she had solid spring break plans. We were trying to go to Candytopia. She's going to Cali. So I'm like, oh, that's fun. Don't worry that when you come back, we can choose some time in April, probably a weekend, to go to Candytopia. But I'm like, yo, have fun and all of that. So as we're talking, she starts asking me about the job search. And that was something that Ruby would always do during this time. She would always ask me how the job search was going. And it kind of felt like she was trying to keep tabs on me to see if I had gotten a job or not. But at this time, I'm like, okay, she's very inquisitive. It's just her inquisitive nature to ask me how my job search is going. So anyways, I remember telling her hey, it's going, I haven't secured anything yet, but I'm still applying. And I'm not sure if I was the one that brought up Oakwood or Ruby was the one. But I remember, I think I was the one. I think I brought up Oakwood and I said, I haven't even heard from them because the Oakwood position was supposed to be filled by February. This is March. So I remember just telling her hey, I didn't even hear back from Oakwood. This is what Ruby says to me. Ruby says, oh, I don't know if I told you this, but 5 weeks ago, I got an interview for that position and I didn't hear back from them. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah. See, the thing with Oakwood, they kind of move really slow. So, yeah, but I didn't hear back from them. So I don't know what they're doing with that position. And I was like, I'm like, man, 5 weeks ago, that is really slow. Now, I want y'all to remember this later on. So she says that, and then we're just talking. I said, you know what, like I said, we can just go to Candytopia sometime in April during the semester, yada, yada, yada. That was the end of the call. Now it's like the weekend to spring break. So let's say Friday or Saturday, right? I get a dream. In the dream, I'm in the parking lot where I typically will park my car on campus. It's me and a bunch of other people congregated at this parking lot. And I remember standing by the sidewalk, and from a distance, I can see Ruby coming towards our way. So in my head, I'm like, oh, Ruby's coming towards us. Like, probably she wants to hang out with us. Y'all, as Ruby is getting closer and closer and closer to the parking lot and to me, right? I started to notice that she looked different. Now, in real life, Ruby is someone who's very skinny, like very skinny. I want to say like size 0 type of skinny, right? In the dream, as she was walking, she was very curvy, very filled up in all those areas, all those body parts areas, right? And not only was she very curvy, she was walking promiscuously. Like she was she was on her way to seduce somebody. And I remember looking at her in a dream like, who is this? So she comes to the parking lot and she's trying to like flirt and seduce the men that's congregated at the parking lot. And at this time, y'all, I am just looking at her like, who is this person? This is not Ruby. Why does she look different? Why is she very flirtatious and very seductive? Who is this person? That was the end of the dream. So I remember waking up. I'm like, man, why am I having a dream that Ruby is somebody that she's not in real life? I want y'all to remember that because it comes back later on in the story. March 27. I am walking out of my classroom because I'm done with classes for that day, and I'm heading to my car. As I'm walking on campus, heading to my car, I get a call from Dina. Okay? Get a call from Dina, and she starts to talk about Kevin. She starts to mention information about Kevin, like, hey, did you know such and such? Now, the information that she gave me about Kevin, I already knew that. But when the person told me the information, they refused to indulge in other information. So that was that. Now, here's the thing. I want to say this. The information that I knew about Kevin, I never told Ruby because I didn't feel like I had to. I didn't feel like I had to. And at the same time, I didn't think it was public knowledge. So I'm like, yeah, this information about Kevin, I'm not telling Ruby. And plus, the person who told me, they didn't want to go into extra details about it. Because when the person told me, I'm like, really? I didn't know that. And I said, where's such and such, such and such? The person's like, oh, I can't say. And I was like, ah. And they're like, yeah, I can't say. And I'm the type of person, I don't like to push people into saying things that they don't want to say. So let's just say that this person who told me the information previously said that they can't tell me because of ketchup, right? Let's just say that's what they said, right? That they can't tell me the rest of the information because of ketchup. Okay. So I'm on the phone with Dina. She said, hey, did you know such and such about Kevin? And I'm like, honestly, yeah, I knew. Then Dina goes into more information that I didn't know and that the person who previously told me information about Kevin didn't tell me. So I'm walking, I'm like, what? She was like, yep. I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that part. I knew this part, but I didn't know that part. They were like, yep, such and 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 such. I was like, whoa. So mind you, I get to my car. I drive home. As I'm driving home, y'all, I'm still talking to Dina on the phone about the situation because I'm like, yo, I didn't know that extra information. So I'm in my apartment and we're just talking, probably for like almost an hour or so or two. Then we hang up, right? We hang up from the call. I start thinking to myself, yo, I think I should tell Ruby this information about Kevin. Now, here's the thing about me, y'all. When people tell me information, when they confide in me, in my mind, I'm like, okay, this person, they really trust me with this information. I can't just be out here telling people, right? That's one. So that's why I try to be a vault. If you tell me something, I'm going to keep it to myself. I try my possible best to be a vault. The second thing, y'all, and this is why I try to be a vault. One thing I hate is that, oh, Adriel was the one that said such and such and such. Well, it was Adriel who said da 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 da. Well, I don't know because they said that Adriel said. I hate that, y'all. Because you know what? Adriel didn't say anything. Adriel didn't say anything. I hate that. So this is why I try my possible best not to go around and spread information about people, because I hate people attaching me to drama. Don't do that to me, okay? Don't say Adriel was the one that said. Adriel didn't say anything. So at this time, I'm contemplating on my couch, should I tell Ruby the information? I'm like, no, because, Dina, she confided in me. But I'm like, Ruby has a crush on Kevin. I'm like, but I don't want this to get back to Dina. I don't want any drama. I don't want anything about Adriel being involved with this, because I really have nothing to do with this. I have nothing to do with Kevin. I have nothing to do with the information. I have nothing to do with nada. So I was going back and forth. I said, you know what? At the end of the day, Ruby is my friend. Let me tell her this information. So I FaceTime Ruby and I say, hey, Ruby, I need to, talk to you. So I tell her the first part of the information, which was something I knew previously, right? Then I tell her the second part. And I was like, yeah, I just felt like I had to tell you. Then she was like, wait. How did you know? And I'm like, Ruby, don't worry about that. No, Adriel, you have to tell me. I have to know who told you. I said, Ruby, don't worry about it. So now I'm kind of like, oh, girl, what is this? So she's like, no, Adriel, I have to know. So, y'all, I just said Dina. Looking back, that I shouldn't have done that, but it was a learning lesson. So I said, Dina. How did Dina know? Now, Dina found out because somebody told her. We're going to call this person. What are we going to call this person? We're going to call this person. We're going to call them Orange, right? Okay. Orange told Dina. Now, I know who Orange is. We all know who Orange is, right? In this circle of people. Orange told Dina. Dina told me. And so I'm talking to Ruby and I said, yo, Orange told her. How did Orange know? Girl, you're asking too many questions. Like, I didn't call you for that. So at this point, I'm low-key getting annoyed about Ruby being so inquisitive about the situation. So she starts saying, oh, I need to ask Dina. I was like, no, you don't. She's like, no, I need to ask Dina because I need to know. I said, Ruby, no, you don't. You don't need to ask Dina. And plus, if you ask her, she's going to know I told you. She's like, no. She's not going to know. Like, I'm going to phrase a question in a way that she's not going to know. I said, Ruby, I just got off the phone with Dina. She's going to know that I told you. So this was Ruby's plan. Ruby had a plan to ask Dina the next day because they had a class together. So she said, we have this class together. I will just go to her and say, hey, so what you think about Kevin? I'm like, girl, you went, y'all, this, some girls are just, and I'm talking to her like, you guys never have conversations about Kevin. You never. So if you go up to her and just out of nowhere ask her about Kevin, she's going to wonder why you're asking her. And then she's going to remember, I told Adriel about Kevin yesterday. Did Adriel tell Ruby about Kevin? So I'm telling Ruby, just let it go. Like, at this point, I'm kind of getting annoyed and low-key regretting that I shared the information with her. So she was like, no, I got to know. I said, you know what? Do what you want to do. Do what you want to do. Because, y'all, it seemed like her mind was set on asking Dina about Kevin. So fast forward to the next day, March 28th. I had to be on campus because I had a graduate student association meeting. Y'all, I had the meeting, it was like in the afternoon. I'm there. And every meeting, they always like have food. So I'm there and I think I'm eating or whatever. But Ruby's best friend in the program, she's there. She's there. We're having a conversation, y'all. We're having a conversation. And she brings up Kevin. She's like, hey, do you know that Kevin was such and such and such? I'm like, yo, you gotta be kidding me. What? So she's like, yeah, I heard Kevin. I was like, wow, that's crazy. Oh my goodness. I'm like, what is up with Ruby? So after the graduate assistantship, no, not the graduate assistantship, sorry. The graduate students association meeting was over. I went to where Ruby was because she was on campus. She was in my school's building. I went there because I'm like, what is going on? But I wasn't going to make a scene. I just wanted to figure out what was going on because how did her best friend in the program know about Kevin? So I go there and they're downstairs. I go downstairs and Ruby is just talking about Kevin and the private information all willy-nilly. There was a guy in our program. He was there and he said, I don't know why you guys are making such a big deal about this Kevin thing, this Kevin, the private information thing, whatever. So when he said that, I'm like, yo, what did I do? I hope this doesn't get back to Dina. So I'm there, smiling, like playing along. But in my head, I'm like, this girl, oh, like I'm annoyed, but I'm smiling. That's crazy that Kevin is that's just crazy, right? So Ruby just starts saying how she asked Dina in class. And Dina just, said like, yeah, Kevin is, whatever the information was, right? Now, this is what Ruby does at that moment, which pissed me off furthermore. Now, let me back up a little bit. When I was talking to Ruby on the phone, I remember confessing to her like, hey, to be honest, I already knew the first part of the private information previously because someone told me, but the person never went into details with me because of catch-up. I told Ruby that on the phone. Okay, now back to this particular situation. So I'm downstairs at our school's building. Ruby's just talking about Kevin all willy-nilly. So she was like, yeah, I spoke to Dina, She told me that this and that. Yeah, Adriel, like you said. Yeah, catch up. Y'all, another thing I hate what people do is I hate when people repeat private information in public settings. Like, I chose to confide in you about this Kevin thing. Now, mind you, I only told her because she had a crush on him. If not, I would have said nothing to her about Kevin. So for the fact that she told her best friend in the program, she went up to Dina, and she just talking about the situation all willy-nilly. Y'all, she proceeds to say this. I need to talk to the person that told Orange the information. So now at this point, I'm like, yo, not Dina. What's her name? Ruby. At this point, I'm like, Ruby is playing a dangerous game. Why do you need to know all this information? So, mind you, I'm pissed, but I'm playing cool. Like, oh my goodness, it's so crazy that Kevin is whatever. So I say to her, like, no, I don't think you should. There's no need. No, I'm actually going to go to the person who told Orange the information. I'm like, this girl has lost her mind. So eventually I left, y'all. I left. I go upstairs. I said, you know what? Let me use the restroom before I leave campus. I go upstairs. I use the restroom. Y'all, I get into the restroom and I get a call from Dina. I said, hey, Dina. You're like, hey, Adriel. Yeah, I want to ask you something. Did you tell Ruby about what I told you concerning Kevin? Y'all, I was moonwalking over that question. I forgot. What did I say? I said, why? No, I didn't say no initially. I said, why are you asking? So she said, yeah, because Ruby came to me, in class today and was like, hey, what do you think about Kevin? Do you think he's handsome? What do you think about Kevin? And I thought it was weird because we don't talk about Kevin. And the last person I spoke to about Kevin was you. So I'm like, maybe she's asking me because of you. I said, oh, you know how, Kevin is just a hot topic. I was dancing around that question. Exactly what I told Ruby what was going to happen. It happened. So she was like, okay, I don't really care if Ruby knew the private information as long as she doesn't know about Orange. And that was when I was like, yeah, I didn't tell her about Orange. Now, I forgot to mention that somebody close to Orange told Orange the information. Then Orange told Dina. Then Dina told me. And then I told Ruby. Okay. So Dina was more like, hey, yeah, as long as Ruby doesn't know about Orange and Orange found out the information from the close friend of hers, I'm good. So I was like, no, I didn't tell her about Orange and, how she found out and all of that. So now I'm kind of like, yo. So I head home and I remember just sitting on my couch thinking to myself, I will never tell this girl any private information. I will never confide in her. This girl cannot hold water. And the thing that bothered me the most about the Ruby situation is Ruby didn't even consider me. I got private information about Kevin and I gave it to her. Y'all, I didn't have to give her that private information. So there was no form of secrecy, no form of privacy when it came to that. She was just opening her mouth, just talking about it. Why would you do that? How would she feel if I did that to her? And I'm like, no, the way she went about it, it was just, no, it was unacceptable. Now, mind you, I said she's very inquisitive. This is beyond inquisitive. This is just being dangerous. This is dangerous. Why are you meddling in people's business? And I don't want to hear, oh, Adriel was the one that said, I don't want to hear anything. Leave Adriel out of it. Come to find out, think weeks later, y'all, I was talking to her on the phone. So wait, before I get to that. So I'm sitting on my couch. I said, I'm never going to tell her any private information. I don't mind being cool with her. But if something is private, yeah, whether it's my business or someone else's business. Now, typically, I wouldn't tell her someone else's business. I made an exception because of the fact that she had a crush on Kevin. But even for my business, y'all, I am not confiding in this girl. This girl's mouth is too loose. So I said that to myself on my couch, but I'm like, okay, I can hang out with her, but I'm just not going to disclose private information. Anyways, come to find out weeks later, y'all, I'm talking to her on the phone and she said that, oh, I actually asked, Orange's close friend about Kevin. So I'm like, yo, this girl really did that. She really asked. So she said that before she left the building, she went to use the restroom and she saw Orange's close friend in the restroom. So she started asking Orange's close friend about Kevin. And it's why would you walk up to somebody that you don't talk to and ask about somebody else? So that person started to disclose extra information about Kevin to Ruby. So Ruby's best friend was waiting for her outside of the building. And she told her, she's like, yo, best friend, you can't tell anybody this. You can't tell anybody this. I'm like, girl, are you Scooby-Doo? What's wrong? I'm like, what's up with you? Why are you meddling? It's none of your business. So that was that with Ruby. This was a big, 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 big red flag. Something I also want to mention that happened in the month of March and April, and just during this time as I'm friends with Ruby, I noticed that anytime I would have a conversation with her, she would try to bring up Mercedes. And she would say something about Mercedes. Oh, Mercedes, this is what she's into. This is what she does. Yeah. So I think it was probably April at this point. I remember sitting down with her outside. We're on campus. And we're just talking. The next thing you know, she brings up Mercedes. And she says, oh, Mercedes was in class learning how to make Nigerian food. And she just starts laughing. And I'm like, oh, that's so crazy. So now at this point, I remember thinking in my head, like, man, why is she always trying to bring up Mercedes in our conversation? Because here's the thing, y'all. I was not friends with Mercedes. Mercedes and I, we did not talk. So all the information I knew about Mercedes, it was coming from Ruby. Now, me and Mercedes, we were in a group chat for our micro class. And then we would like exchange notes, throughout the people in the group chat. And I remember messaging her one time about something. But me and Mercedes, we were not friends. So I'm thinking, why is Ruby always coming to me about Mercedes? So when she brought up the whole thing of Mercedes being on Pinterest, learning how to cook Nigerian food and laughing at the situation, that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh, it seems like she's trying to bait me to gossip about Mercedes. Now, here's the thing. How can I gossip about someone that I don't even talk to, that I don't even know? I don't know Mercedes. Like, we're in the same class. At this time, this was the second class we had taken together. Yeah, I still did not know this girl like that. I didn't know her. So how can I gossip about her? So, yeah, in my mind, I'm like, yo, she's bringing her up because she wants me to gossip about her. I'm not going to do that. And plus, she hasn't done anything to me. Now, I'm going to stop the story time right here, okay? Next episode, I'm going to talk about the stuff that Ruby did in the month of May and June that were weird, okay? So if you're liking this story time, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please also share my videos as well. And until next time, y'all, bye.